Joining us to go inside the research is Dr. Stephen Buser, Professor Emeritus at Ohio State's Fisher College of Business. Professor, we appreciate your time today. Thank you. Talk about that recovery and what is next for the U.S. economy and what's next for the Ohio economy, because they're not one and the same, are they?
That's correct. They're not one and the same. Well, there's good news and bad news. And the good news is we are in the second stage of recovery. The first stage is your patient is no longer getting worse. You've turned the corner and you are getting better. But that's very limited. And last year we saw a very limited recovery. And if you were in one business, you may have seen some recovery, but in another business you said, what are they talking about? It's still in the midst of recession. This year there will be direct as well as indirect effects, which means that the recovery will broaden. So a larger percentage of businesses are going to see the benefits, and a larger percentage of businesses will then start hiring. And the indirect effects, businesses are hiring, paying people more, those people are spending more, that will spread across the economy. So that's the good news. And the bad news is there are some hidden risks, as you indicated, some bumps along the way that we can expect. And of course there are always unexpected bumps as well.
I love the patient analogy. The patient is recovering but still hospitalized, right?
That's correct. No longer in intensive care, but you're still in the hospital and you're not released yet. So we're still observing this recovery and hope the patient continues to recover as planned.
In Ohio, sometimes we tend to think negatively and to think that we're always kind of behind. That's not necessarily the case, is it?
That's correct. There are actually several Ohios, and Central Ohio actually did better during this recession than the national economy, and much better than Ohio in general. But outside of Columbus, the other regions were worse. So unemployment was higher for Ohio than the national average, but lower in Columbus. And recovery is going to be stronger in other parts of Ohio than in Columbus, because Columbus didn't have as far to recover. So the good news is that they didn't suffer as much. They weren't as ill. The patient wasn't as sick in Columbus. But the bad news is that the recovery is not going to be quite as noticeable, as strong in Columbus as the rest of Ohio.
When you mention the word recovery, are you talking about 2011 or are you talking about 3, 4, 5 years down the road?
I'm talking about 2011. We've already seen a very narrow, focused recovery for some businesses that are doing quite well. Building up inventories, planning to sell very well. But it's been very narrow last year. This year it's going to broaden. So we're talking about 2011.
One of the buzzwords out there is double dip. Not ice cream, but double dip recession. Is that a possibility?
Well, it's always possible that you will retrench, but there's no more fear of that than normal. So if we were chugging along very, very well, there's a risk you go into a recession. So it's the same risk today. There's no risk that there will be a rebound effect or a double dip because we're already in a recession. Does not make it more likely that we'll get hit with a new problem. That's the good news.
Let's talk about money. That's what we like to do on the business show here. The rapid growth of U.S. money supply, that sounds like a good thing. Not the case, right?
Not the case, and certainly not always the case. I do think that it was appropriate when we went into the recession to make money fairly easy. But when interest rates are low, if you're looking at it from an investor standpoint, you're not that interested in making investments. And the economy grows in proportion to the investment. So once we get out of this recession, when you say what's next, so if you're talking about 2012 and down the road, we're going to wish that we'd been investing much more aggressively right now, and we were going to wish that interest rates had been higher than they are right now. So money supply, making money easy, low interest rates means low investment, so we're probably hurting our long-term growth prospects for the benefit of short-term recovery. It's a trade-off.
And on the subject of money, the value of the U.S. dollar, many people don't understand just how crucial that is to our economy. What is the state of the value of our dollar?
And this is very critical, and it's a new story, because in our past recessions, trade was not that important to us, but it is very important right now, and it's been the driving force. There are lots of dollars floating around. They do not command as much value in the international market as they used to. They don't buy as much of other currencies. So our dollars are getting cheaper and cheaper, and so the products that we've been importing, we've been living off the rest of the world very well. We've been buying things for almost nothing from China, for instance. Those costs are going to go up. So our costs of imports are going to go up. Conversely, the things that we try to sell, those things are going to seem cheaper. Because if you're in Canada, for instance, the Canadian dollar trades at par with the US dollar now. That wasn't the case. Many years ago, the Canadian dollar wasn't worth very much. But now if you're in Canada, you're saying, I can buy dollars very cheaply, so I can buy products And we are exporting food. Our export growth has been very, very fast. It's one of our leading indicators getting out of the recession. So that pattern is going to be interesting, but prices are going to go up. So Canadians and others, people who are buying our food, are driving up the price of food, and the items that we buy, like oil, for example, are going to get expensive very quickly.
Let's zero in on Ohio now. We will hear from the Ohio Chamber of Commerce president in just a few minutes. We're moving forward now with the John Kasich administration. They present themselves as very business-minded. Ohio is open for business. We've heard that phrase. Where do we go moving forward with this new administration in a business sense? Are we more business-friendly now?
Well, we may be more business-friendly. I certainly hope that's the case. But even if we were business-neutral, the cards are in Ohio's favor. Just like the recession is very hard on Ohio, recovery is going to be very good. In particular, businesses that have been competing with foreign competitors, this change in the value of the dollar is going to stack the deck in their favor. They could see a sign as much as 20% improvement on the terms of their trade. In other words, if you were trying to compete with someone, all of a sudden their prices are going to be 20% higher than they used to be, and your prices aren't going to have changed at all. So you're going to have a real competitive advantage that you'll be able to play, and that's very important for most of Ohio.
Real quickly, a final thought, just for a little personal advice for people out there. Is this a good year to invest, dabble in the stock market, or open a new small business?
Well, that's always a tricky decision. I would say a good year to open a new business. As far as the stock market, they play ahead. So they always look down the road, and some people are surprised how strong the stock market is today. I think it's strong today because they already know what we've just been discussing, that this is probably going to be a good year. So that's the way the point spread is going, if you will. The point spread is in favor of 2011 being a very strong year.
I love the sports analogy, too. Dr. Stephen Buser from Fisher College of Business. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Happy to do it.